Hello everyone, so today I'd like to show you how I made this cute ruffly top with tie-up shoulder straps. So if you'd like to know how I made this without any pattern pieces, please keep watching. You'll first need to cut out the front and back pieces. Measure your upper bust all the way around your chest and use that as the width, and then the height would be the length of your top plus 9 centimeters. You will also need 4 long rectangles measuring 8 centimeters by 75 centimeters. Lastly, you'll need a piece of elastic that is 1 or 1.5 centimeters wide. Now take your front and back pieces, put them right sides together and pin along the 2 shorter edges. With a 1.5 centimeter seam allowance, stitch along those 2 edges. I know the top looks really wide right now, but don't worry. As soon as we stitch in the elastic, all of that extra fabric is going to be gathered up and turned into ruffles. Go ahead and finish off those raw edges with either a zigzag stitch or, like me, with an overlocker. Fold over the long edge by 7 centimeters and pin all the way around. Use a sewing gauge to make sure that it is even from one side to the other. Using an iron, go ahead and press that folded edge that you had just created. Remember, if you're using polyester or synthetic materials, to iron with a lower heat setting. Otherwise, you might risk burning your material. Using a straight stitch again, stitch 4.5 centimeters away from the folded edge, or if it's easier for you to understand, 1.5 centimeters from the raw edge. I like to use a piece of red tape in this step just to make sure that I can keep everything really even as I go all the way around. I didn't get to show it here, but after doing this step, I also went ahead and finished off the raw edge that was folded down with an overlocker as well. You can also use a zigzag stitch for this. Just be aware not to catch the main fabric when you're finishing off that edge. Now take your elastic and wrap it around your upper bust. It doesn't have to be super tight. I probably used my upper bust measurement and took away maybe 3 to 4 centimeters. Overlap the ends of your elastic by 1 centimeter and sew a straight stitch from top to bottom. Take your elastic loop and now you want to divide it into 4 equal sections. Fold it in half one way, mark where you folded it. Now match up that mark with the joint of your elastic, fold it the other way and then mark on those 2 other ends that you have folded as well. Now you should have 4 marking evenly along the elastic with your straight stitch at the beginning counted as one of them. Now you're going to do the same thing as you did with your main top piece as well. So you're going to match up the 2 side seams, and then with 2 pins, you're going to pin where the 2 other ends have folded. Now comes the trickiest part of this project, which is to match up those 4 marks on your elastic with the 4 marks on your top piece as well. So you want to pin the elastic about 4.5 centimeters down from the folded edge, and yep, you just want to pin it like that. And you're going to see that the elastic is going to be much shorter than the edge of your top. And don't worry, like I said before, we're going to stretch the elastic and gather up the fabric as we're sewing it. Set your machine to a zigzag stitch setting. I'm just using a medium-sized zigzag stitch. It's really important that we use a zigzag stitch when we're stitching elastic. Otherwise, it's not going to stretch with the fabric. If you have to remove one of the pins before you get started, make sure you have your needle down before you push on the foot pedal. Stretch your elastic as you start stitching. Try to stitch in the middle of the elastic. Your left hand can actually go ahead and pull on the other side just to keep the fabric taut and straight, but don't try to pull the fabric through, otherwise you might risk bending your needle. I completely forgot to mention this, but actually before I started sewing, I added an extra pin in between each of those pins just to make sure that the elastic is in the right place as I'm trying to pull it through those kind of big gaps between the pins. And instead of back stitching at the beginning and at the end, I simply overlapped the stitches when I got to the end. Yay, you're done with the hardest part. Now you should have something that looks like this. Now we're on to the straps, which means you're nearly at the end. Take one of those rectangle pieces from the start and pin it all the way down. And with a straight stitch, make sure you change your machine back. With a straight stitch, stitch all the way down from one of the short edges and then all the way down. You don't want to close it up, so make sure you're only sewing across one of the short edges. Now trim the corners of the closed edges so that they have kind of like a slanted edge, and that will help your corners turn out really sharp. Use a chopstick or a knitting needle to turn this tube right side out. After that, you want to give it a really good press, rolling the edges out so that nothing is kind of caught in the layers, and then top stitch it all the way around. You'd want to do this with all the other straps too. Comes the fun part. Try your top on and make sure the two side seams are on either sides of your body, and use one of the straps and pin it where you would like it to start from. Take your top and flip the top part inside out and measure the distance between the strap and the side seam. So I happen to have pinned my strap 7 centimeters away from the side seam. So I'm going to remember that. Now I'm going to measure 7 centimeters away from the side seam on the other side, and that's where I'm going to pin my second strap. And I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side seam as well, measuring 7 centimeters from that side seam either side, and pinning the last 2 straps there as well. This is also where you get to customize your straps as well. If you want your straps to come down in a V shape at the back, you might choose to pin the 2 back straps closer into the middle. You're going to sew these straps on using a zigzag stitch again while stretching that elastic. Try your best to stitch right on top of that previous zigzag stitch that you've done on the elastic before, but it really doesn't matter if you can't do that. As long as your thread is matching the color of your fabric, it shouldn't be too noticeable. Woohoo! You are officially on the last step of this project. Take the bottom edge of your top and fold it up by 1 centimeter. Pin it all the way around and then straight stitch it. After that, you're going to repeat the same step again, folding it up by another centimeter so that none of the raw edges are sticking out. And you're done! If you do end up making this, please share it with me on Instagram, and I hope you enjoyed it. For more sewing related videos, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!